ahead and take a look into the match and see what's going on.
Yeah. So we'll change those names here in a little bit once we see what they're on. I really like those Easter Dragon sleeves.
Yeah, the art mat sleeves, yeah, they're really good. I picked up a couple myself when they came out, and I gotta say, I don't want anything else other than the mat sleeve at this point. So
That's great. All right, so that might be Burn.
yeah, I think I saw like a Grim Lavamancer, possibly some other red cards as well in Matt's deck. So yeah, it looks like Matt is on probably just a standard burn deck.
Yeah. Sacred Foundry makes me think so. We'll see what he plays. He's already down to 17 life. So who's who? Which Matt's on the bottom.
Yep.
Of the
So
screen.
Matt's on the bottom. He leads off with a Swift Spear.
So we're at 19 to 17 right now. Matt's at 17.
Copperline. Thomas is on Dredge. Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
I should have been able to guess that because that is kind of Thomas's deck of choice. I think generally Dredge is pretty favored in the matchup.
There's a Lava Spike for the Monastery Swift Spear. Some prowess triggers. Going to be a lot of damage going one way or the other.
If you guys have time to adjust, graveyard's a little bit cut off on that side, but I don't think it's actually a big deal for a player.
All right, so they're milling over with their Shriekhorn. Relevant cards in the graveyard, is that just the Prize Amalgam? What's that underneath?
It's a Golgari Thug, so it's a Dredge 4.
Dredger.
Yep.
So that's pretty relevant.
Yep, that's exactly what Thomas wants. Is he wants a Dredger. Hitting that on his first Shriekhorn activation is really good.
Yeah, that's a really good turn too. Getting his creatures into play, getting dredgers in his graveyard. He might not even need this Shriekhorn anymore.
Yeah, and Matt kept a one-lander, which I think is usually pretty defensible in Burn. If you have like a one-lander with any sort of one-drop creature and any number of burn spells, you're usually going to be perfectly fine keeping that hand.
Yeah.
It's still going to be important for Matt to be able to hit his lands at some point though, because he likely does have some number of Boros Charms, probably 4, and Lightning Helixes in his deck.
For sure. Here's a real strong play from Thomas where he gets to Cathartic Reunion, dredging for 3 draws, but he dredges 3 times, total of 13 cards.
And he hits probably the most important card in the matchup, which is Creeping Chill.
Yeah, gets to add to his clock while also protecting himself from Burn's power.
Yeah, the burn deck has to actually spend real cardboard on its Lightning Helixes, and the Dredge deck just gets them essentially for free.
Alright, so it looks like the way that Prized Amalgam's triggers worked is it came in a little delayed, later than we expected.
Yeah, it came in at the end of Thomas's turn because he dredged on his draw step.
That makes sense.
So the Narcomoeba came into play on his draw step. If Matt doesn't burn the Narcomoeba, I would not be surprised to just see it jump in front of the Swift Speed here, just to act as a sort of mini healing salve.
That makes a lot of sense. You want to gain and protect your life total as much as possible against burn.
Yeah.
There's a Lava Spike going straight to the face. We'll see if it blocks, like you said. It looks like he elected not to block.
Yeah, I believe he did not block.
And then a Prized Amalgam brings in another Prized Amalgam into play.
Yeah, kind of surprised, especially with him having 2 amalgams, that he didn't block.
There's another Creeping Chill. I think Thomas might be at 15 after that. Kind of fun to see the burn deck putting on more power, and it looks like Matt scooped him up.
Yeah, Thomas was, if he wasn't going to kill Matt that turn, he was going to be able to kill him next turn, and being at 15 life means that Matt knows he realistically doesn't have any way to to finish the game, especially, again, like I said, just being stuck on those two lands. The real question is what kind of a graveyard hate Matt's going to have in his sideboard. If he has, I know some burn lists do play like 4 Rest in Peace in the sideboard, so if he's got 4 Rest in Peace, he's definitely going to obviously want to bring those in. Some burn decks elect to just completely eschew any sort of graveyard hate, basically figuring that if you have to play Rest in Peace, you're essentially down a card, and the burn decks usually they're really concerned about the total number of resources they have in order to finish an opponent off. But with Rest in Peace being as good as it is against Dredge, it's pretty likely that
It's worth a couple cards.
yeah, that I wouldn't be surprised if Matt had a couple in his sideboard. Thomas likely has some number of Nature's Claims. In fact, I think a lot of the Dredge decks play like 4 Nature's Claims. And Nature's Claim is incidentally going to possibly still be good in this matchup, even if Matt doesn't have Rest in Peace, because it does kill Eidolon in the Great Revel.
That's
and
true.
You can even do things like in a pinch, like use Nature's Claim on like a Shriekhorn that's been already used all its counters to just, as a gain 4 life in the matchup. So if Thomas does have 4 Nature's Claim, I would expect him to bring all 4.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think about a card like Relic of Progenitus for Matt's side, where it can affect the graveyard and keep him neutral on cards?
So Relic is the kind of card that obviously it doesn't really cost you a card because it does replace itself. You're effectively paying the same mana as Rest in Peace. You can dole it out over turns if you want to, though. Like you can play it on turn 1 and then later on, like on turn 3 or something like that, cash it in to hit Thomas's graveyard. The one problem is, I think, with Relic versus Rest in Peace, is Rest in Peace, if it's unanswered, is basically lights out for Dredge. Whereas Dredge can kind of do some things to work around a Relic, right? Like, Thomas is going to be able to continue to dredge like every turn until Matt decides to pop the Relic. And then once the Relic is popped, then Thomas can go full on, I'm doing what my deck's doing, I'm dredging all the cards in my graveyard. So I don't think Relic is a bad card per se, it's just a question of if you're going to board a card that's aimed at a graveyard matchup, particularly Dredge, are you going to do that to try and just make it, like I said, lights out for the matchup, as opposed to I'm playing a card that doesn't necessarily hurt my game plan as much, but isn't going to be quite as strong as Rest in Peace. So those are usually the questions that I like to ask. I would say I like Relic in matchups like, say, versus like Tarmogoyfs, when Tarmogoyf was a popular creature. Tarmogoyf has fallen out of favor a bit, though, and cards like Kitchen Finks. So because of that, I don't think Relic is as important to play for the deck. Alright, Kenna is just adjusting the playmat a little bit before they hop into game 1. I see a mix of land and spells from what I was able to glimpse at Matt's hand. Don't know if he has a creature or not for any pressure.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when they have a 1-drop versus not, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. I've played Burn a decent amount. It's one of the modern decks I like more. I'll be honest, I don't think it's particularly good right now in the format. But it is the deck that I like to play a lot. I won a state championship with Burn a couple years ago. So a lot of times with Burn, you'll have hands where you have, say, like 5 Burn spells and 2 lands, and that seems like that should be a good hand to keep. The problem is that if each of your spells does 3 and you have 5 spells in your hand, you're still only doing 15 points at that there. You really want a creature of some sort, because a creature gives you the pressure that you need in order to end the game faster. So Goblin Guide, Monastery Swiftspear, and Eidolon. Admittedly, Eidolon's much worse on the draw, but on the play, it's still going to be a decent card. All right, looks like both players capped.
Yeah, it's 6.
Yep.
It looks like Matt scribed at the top, but Thomas scribed at the bottom, and he leads off with, this is a new one. This has prowess and is a 1-drop, but not one we're usually used to seeing.
Yeah, so I know there was a point when Amonkhet first came out that people were playing Soulscar Mage in their burn decks. Ultimately, I think it's just worse than a lot of the other options you have. One rule with like burn is that you want your creatures to deal damage immediately, right? So like basically you're playing creatures that have haste, or like Eidolon generally will always deal at least 2 points of damage, even if a removal spell gets pointed at it. So I know, like I said, Soulscar Mage was tried out when Amonkhet first came out. Ultimately ended up, I think, just being not quite as high impact as the other cards. If that's attacking here, that's interesting. That means he may either have instance or just doesn't have any direct burn spells. Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad for him. That means he's definitely losing out on a lot of damage that the deck usually can produce pretty quickly. Thomas on his first turn had a pretty strong play with Faithless Looting. Unfortunately, he was only able to discard Light from the Loam that dredges 3 instead of a more impactful card like a Thug.
He was able to hit 2 Bloodghast though off that Dredge 3 though, so he's going to be immediately putting a lot of pressure on Matt to basically end the game.
Yeah, Bloodghast doesn't block very well, but sure does attack pretty quickly.
And he does have a Cathartic Reunion, which is definitely one of your. I think it's one of these it's one of the most powerful plays Dredge has access to, since it potentially allows you to dredge 3 different dredge cards.
Right. Yeah, that's great. It's a little unfortunate the timing of that prized amalgam after the landfall brought the Bloodghast back in, but he'll be able to find a way to get that.
Yeah, and the amalgams and the Bloodghast actually make things a little awkward for Matt, because if Matt has one of the possibilities, Matt boarded in some number of Searing effects, so cards like Searing Blood or Searing Blaze, which it looks like he may have one of those now.
That's a Skull Crack.
Yeah, so I guess the reason Matt didn't use that last turn is he was holding it in case Thomas hit like a creepy chill off of one of his dredges.
Right. Lost out on a point of damage, but potentially could have dealt theoretically 6 with the Skull Crack.
Alright, so now we have the Hasty Prowess creature. If Matt has like a 1-drop spell here, he's going to be getting it for a lot of damage. I don't know if he does or not.
Yeah, those Bloodcast can't block, so it looks like he's just getting it for 2. And then after he deals some damage, he gets the Spectacle out. This mana curve and the timing isn't quite working out for him.
He does have Thomas down to 9 though, so Thomas is going to be under. Basically, he's going to want to hit some number of Creeping Chills off of these dredges. I think the only dredger he has at the moment is Light from the Loam.
He may have already dredged that up. His 3rd card from he doesn't have a dredger.
Yeah, he's just going for a natural draw. Definitely not what Thomas wants to be doing here.
Yeah, so even though Matt had a slow start, he might actually get there just because Thomas stumbled. That's kind of the story of Modern.
Does he have another? Looks like a Collective Brutality.
That's pretty good. He likes to actively discard those Life from the Loams he has.
Yep.
And it's one of the best cards against burn.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Collective Brutality is quite brutal against the burn deck. It's definitely the card I want to see the least when I'm playing burn, probably.
So now that both creatures aren't summon sick, do you hit the Soulscar Mage just because it has an extra line of
Yeah,
text?
I mean it's technically strictly better than the Swift Spear once it's in play. Ultimately, I don't think it matters very much. It's not like Matt needs to be worried about like putting counters on the creatures. Pretty much all of Thomas's creatures straight up died at his burn spell anyways.
So he's looking at a Skull Crack and a Searing Blaze. Searing Blaze gets to deal damage while also dealing with the creature, with the caveat that you need landfall for it to really be most effective. I didn't see what he took there.
I believe
The graveyard still looks like it's that. Is that a Skull Crack? He must have taken the Skull Crack and left the Searing Blaze.
Searing Blade. Yeah, and I think that's I think that's fine. Probably Thomas's thought process is that if if Matt draws a land to even turn the Searing Blaze on, that's fine because at that point Matt will be hellbent and Thomas will be at 8. And even if the Swift Spear gets a hit in, it puts him at 6. Whereas if he takes the guaranteed 3 damage because he knows he's still going to be getting hit by that Swift Spear this turn, it means that at that point that Matt's if he doesn't take the Searing Blaze, then Matt's going to need a chain of a land into 2 burn spells. Whereas if he takes the Searing Blaze, Matt only needs to basically draw bolts, and then land is still also kind of a lag draw as well. So I do think you just leave the Searing Blaze in his hand, making his hand a little bit.
Well, Matt got a big hit with 2 Creeping Chills for a 12-point life swing. And there's also an extra Amalgam in the yard in case he can ever bring something back from the graveyard.
Yeah, Thomas was able to follow up with a Faithless Looting and was able to dredge and hit the 2 chills, which I think pretty much puts this game away.
Yeah. Now that Matt's blockers creatures will have to stand back and block blood gas, and those blood gas are just free to bring back extra amalgams. It'll be rough going for Matt. So Thomas is judging some more. We apologize about that. We had a little side conversation we were doing. But it looks like Thomas is in a solid place. When you get to the late part of the game and you have 16 life against burn, you're feeling pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I think this is not the point of the game that Matt wants to be in, which is
Yeah, and there's the concession. Thomas wins quick 2-0 against the burn.
Yeah, like I said, Dredge is a pretty bad matchup for burn. Your options aren't great. Pretty much, like I said, your best option is to have like probably a decent number of recipes in his sideboard. And Matt is showing that he did have recipes out of his sideboard.
Well, that was a quick 2-0, and I guess we'll bring it back once the round starts, or do we have anything to do in between?
I don't think there's any other matches at the moment that's going on. But yeah, so we'll be back with round 3. It's 4 rounds of Modern today, followed by 4 rounds of Standard. So we're about halfway through the Modern rounds. players looking to get in a good position when they go into standard to try and get top 8 for their share of $3,000 in prizes.
It's an exciting day here at Game Grid, best store in Utah.
Yeah, make sure if you guys are interested in qualifying for this fall's championship, all the details for qualification are up on our site at play@gamegrid.com. You can either play in 36 events at any Game Grid. That includes Friday Night Magic, that includes Commander Pods, that includes like your weekly drafts. So if you play in 36 of those, you do qualify for the event. Or we also have a series of qualifiers going on as well. That schedule will be up on the site this weekend. And I believe the first event is in June, if I remember correctly. I'll get the exact dates for those. But there's basically 2 different ways to qualify for the event. We have 53 players here, and like I said, they're playing for their share of $3,000 in prizes. This is the biggest tournament in Utah. Definitely the biggest local tournament. So, yeah, we'll be back probably in the next, probably about next 15 minutes or so.